There we go. There we are, John. All right.
Awesome. I got a
I'm just
position.
dumb. I figured out what I did. So I scheduled the live for 7 o'clock and I sent that invite link.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, if you go on YouTube and you go and you start early, it creates a new live or something.
Oh.
It's the only thing I can figure out because I said, well, I'll go ahead and get on here. So that way John can just join in and I'll just wait on him to get started on, all the chitty chat stuff. But apparently that didn't work. So here we are again. Hopefully, Greg was hanging out in the chat, but then I said that I had to have done something because I had everything set up. I was like, I'm going to be prepared this time. I've got it set on vertical. And I had about 18 people drop in, and then lost it because I was like, crap, I can't get John on here for some reason. What's going on? I couldn't find the way to share the link to you for the new live or whatever. So I said, "I to heck with it." And I just got off. I'll be right back, everybody. We'll start a new live.
So do you have it? Is there a new link for the for everybody else to join?
Yeah.
Okay.
If anybody who subscribes to my channel gets a notification if they've got the bell on to join in anytime I go live or have a video or whatever. And so that was just all people dropping in, and I didn't promote like anything. All I did was just set it for 7.
Yeah, I finally got it.
And I think it was just starting that new live there, and I went ahead and did did the vertical because I know last time I actually got some new subscribers from that, so thought it'd be a good idea since we ain't got Greg and the screen wouldn't be extremely crowded to just go ahead and try, get all the people watching the shorts.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before you came on, I was just talking about how I had originally titled the live stream for tonight was This and That Q&A, which is a fancy way of saying there's no topic for tonight.
There you go.
Except for spring is upon us. It is coming so fast, even though it's really cold right now. I think Greg said it was 19 degrees up in Michigan.
It's fixing to be that way here.
It is rough, man. And the worst part's the wind. Yeah. If the wind would just die down, I'd be able to walk around outside and be okay. But that wind just murder.
Right.
So, John, what's been going on this week out on the cattle ranch?
Well, we've had some good weather, or at least warm weather, above freezing weather, which is where I draw my line because, as I've said before, my irrigation is all on top of the ground, so I can only have my cattle where I have when it's above freezing in certain places. And now I'm getting ready to move them back to the pond where they have access to water and I don't have to worry about pipes freezing. And they'll spend I'll move them tomorrow morning and they'll probably be there till through the week, through next weekend. I think that the cold snap's going to be here for a good 4 or 5 days at least. And then, and hopefully the weather will snap back and I can get them back on their pasture where they're at right now. So it's good, just like everybody else. I'm complaining about the price of cattle because I'm a buyer and not a seller. So kind of putting a kink in my operation a little bit. So I'll have to figure my way around it, and that's no problem. But we'll get that. I'm actually considering. I don't have a large herd, so I just feed hay in square bales, which they're about 45 or 50 pounds a piece.
Mm-hmm.
And it's expensive now because I've run out of the hay I bought earlier in the season, so I'm buying 8 or 10 bales at a time, and at $10 a bale, that starts adding up, especially
Mhm.
if they eat 1 to 2 bales a day. That gets expensive really quick. But what I'm thinking, and this year is this year, but next year I'm thinking of I'm going to do the large round bales, and I think I've found a person who has one of those Greg Judy style bale unrollers where you can unroll the round bales little by little, and it's a lot
Mhm.
cheaper. It's a lot cheaper because out of a round bale, you'll get the equivalent of about 20 square bales in a round bale.
Mhm.
Um, but a round bale is only going to cost me maybe $60,
Yep.
whereas so there's quite a bit of savings there. But I've got to buy the unroller, which is $3,000. So it's like, okay,
Oh, wow.
so it's going to be a couple of years before I get my money back, I guess is what I'm saying. But uh,
Yeah.
in the long run, it just makes more sense. I'm just got to bite the bullet. The only problem is it's down in Panama City. Uh, and so that's a long way for me to go get it because,
Yeah.
my truck will make it, but it's already, well, I don't, whatever. It's a Canadian truck, so it's in kilometers. So there's like 190,000 kilometers on it, which is about 120,000 miles. So
Mhm.
it can make it, but man, that truck sucks the gas, man. A trip down to Panama City and back is going to
Yeah.
be. So I'm trying to find somebody who's making that trip up here from down there, and then and they can just pull it and drop it off.
Mhm.
I'll pay them for gas money or whatever, but we'll see how it works out. But that's what I got planned for the cows, and I'll be buying some whether I can afford it or not here probably in another 30 days. So it's
Yeah.
it's the way it goes. It's business, and everybody's. Yeah, if there's anybody listening that lives further south and wants to go down to Panama City, maybe they're going to do a little vacationing down there, and they want to pull back a trailer. That'd be
Yeah.
great. That'd be
That's
awesome.
that's what Greg's saying down here. He said vacation PCV.
Yeah.
Hey to everybody in the chat. Thanks for coming by. Shy Guy, Take the Ride 23. That's Greg's other channel if y'all want to check out his health journey. And then Mason says, love this. Well, thanks for coming by. Now so yeah, it's a pull behind piece of machinery,
Yeah.
and all
uh,
it does is it holds the bale,
right.
and you can unroll it basically just like a toilet paper roll.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so and the good thing about it, it was going to help me out because with square bales, they'll only go as far as I'm going to carry a square bale, and at 50
Hmm.
pounds, it ain't that far. So I'm not spreading the hay out as much as I would like to. And after doing it a couple of years in a row, it's spread out in the same spot every year just because of the way everything's set up. But with an unroller, I can take it to the spot I want to unroll it on directly, and because I'm pulling it with a truck, I don't have to carry it, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, and that's really good because on your marginal grass, and you cover that up with hay, even though they're eating most of the hay, there's still plenty of debris that they don't eat. Plus their manure and their urine is concentrated around the hay because they like to stick close to where the food is, and so they'll drop their donations in that area. So you can really build up some fertility in some marginal areas by using this process. So that's another reason why I want to do it. So I'm going to have to bite the bullet, but I think in the long run, it's probably going to be a smart move for me.
Yeah. We were fortunate enough to be able to go over. My neighbor no longer keeps well, one of my neighbor no longer keeps cattle, and he had me go over, and every like those little small bales that he had left over that he wasn't
Uh-huh.
going to sell, and places where he didn't bale it up because it wasn't worth it. I got like I got three little partial bales, about yay big
Uh-huh.
around or so, and like three truckloads of just loose hay. So
Uh-huh.
my three sheep will never finish all of that before spring rolls back around. I mean,
Right.
I've given them the 3 little partial bales, I think, and a bunch of the loose hay, but there's still just a stack, like a 6 foot by 6 foot by 6 foot high stack of hay that they've still got to go through.
That,
And
oh, that's
we're getting towards the end of February, so we're going to be good on the hay. Luckily, I didn't spend a dime, but yeah, your larger bales are so much cheaper. So I can see that, especially if you're keeping a few cows, paying for itself in the long run. But you said they run about 3,000.
the trailer, yeah, the trailer, the unroller, and it's practically brand new. So I'd like to get one that's more used and cheaper, but they're not that common. So I posted on a Facebook group of grass fed cattle folks, and they pointed me down there. So I'm gonna wait and see if I can find somebody that's gonna make it down there, or if I think it's worth it and I can do the drive, I'll drive down there and pick it up. I'm hoping somebody can drop it off halfway in between, and find
Yeah,
an in between spot, like maybe Birmingham or someplace like that. I think that would be a reasonable ask, but we'll see. No big
yeah.
deal. But
Are you thinking about getting it during the summer, um, or are you trying to go ahead and get it now?
well, I wanna arrange to have it now. I might
Yeah,
not up until the summer.
right.
Or when somebody's going through there, but as long as I can lock it down and I have it available for next fall. Because I've thought about and I've tried to change my operation where I don't have very many or any cattle over the winter, so I don't have to feed them hay. But as I'm finding out, that's a little harder to do than I thought it was going to be, and so I'm going to go back to feeding hay in the wintertime. So I might as well get efficient and cheap at it if I'm going to do that.
Yeah,
So kind of pushing me in that direction. It's just harder to find steers the size I need to finish them on the timeline that I want to finish them on. So I'm just going to have to get calves and raise them up until they're ready to go, which is anywhere between 24 and 30 months. So um,
yeah,
it just takes time, and I finally resigned myself to that. It's like it's just going to take the time, and I can't speed it up because I'm not going to be. Because this year, although the cattle were good, they were smaller. They didn't finish as heavy as they did when I kept them longer, obviously. And I just feel much more comfortable keeping them longer and making sure they're completely finished. And so to do that, I gotta feed them hay in the wintertime and a lot of it. So I can feed more hay for cheaper this way. So they'll hopefully do even better in the future. So that's
yeah,
kind of the story there. But yeah, if you've got a lot of leftover hay, I know it won't keep till next year. And I don't know, do you have to, I guess once the grass starts growing, the sheep don't need any more hay, do they?
No, and from everything that I'm seeing, like in my limited experience in keeping sheep, I'm not going to act like I'm Greg Judy over here. And everything that I've seen of his videos and other people keeping sheep and cattle. Of course, now a sheep is way smaller than a cow, but
Right.
they're extremely efficient and just can survive on like next to nothing. Well, that's why a lot of people in the around the world in deserts and stuff keep them is
Mhm.
because they're so resilient and they don't eat a whole lot. Yeah, the hay probably won't keep until next year, but I'm taking advantage of the free hay and I'm giving them just as much as they'll eat without it spoiling and trying to get as much weight on them as possible. Because I mean, I might as well, the hay's there and it was free. Had to just go pick it up, like literally maybe 1,000 feet down the road, put it in
Mhm.
the back of a truck and wheel it up here. So I mean, it's totally worth it to just go ahead and go through it all and make sure they're putting on as much weight as possible.
Right.
Um, uh, let's see here. Oh, Greg was in here in the chat. He said he was reading today that Jefferson and the Anti-Federalists wanted to have the country be comprised of small independent farmers. I've heard about that, I think, from Joel Salatin before. He says, I don't know if I knew this about Hamilton, though. He said Hamilton was a guy that wanted a national bank and was part of taxing whiskey early on, in which case Pennsylvania farmers refused to pay the tax and uh, take in the government. He said, Hamilton equals woke, Jefferson equals based. Adapt and overcome. Yeah,
Well,
speaking of Jefferson being based, talking about the small farmers, that there is a movement that's happening. We got people like John that did the cattle. Um, our friends, Scotus hometown up there in North Carolina, the Nevermore Farms. There's people, they're starting all these little farms, and I see us kind of moving in that direction. I don't think as excited as people are getting about some of the changes that are being made in the agriculture stuff. There's been a lot of stuff that's been silly, but then there's been some stuff that looks like it's moving sort of in a good direction. I don't think that Tyson's going anywhere tomorrow,
no,
or any of that stuff. But I do see a huge influx of people growing their own food and small farmers. And the only thing I can say to people is, if you want to see the change, you got to start supporting people like John, um, like myself, like Greg. Even if it's just buying eggs from your neighbor, like a small farm like Nevermore Farms. You got to start supporting these people if you want Tyson to go away.
yeah. Well, I just in our group, I just posted a a Twitter article, I guess, from RFK. Now that he's in charge of, you know, the whole the whole shenanigans there when it comes to farming, and he there. These are 3 bullet points from that. It says he's going to rewrite the regulations to give small operators a break. He's going to encourage sustainable regenerative farming that can build soil and replenish aquifers, and he's going to ban the worst chemicals that are already prohibited in other counties or other countries, and remove all the conflict of interest from the dietary panels and commissions that are making up food policy. So, I mean, is it going to happen? I don't know, but certainly I think it's going to be in the right direction. I think
Mhm.
it's something that we can look forward to and support. If we get the chance. But I had it's kind of interesting. I was reading that part about the chemicals, and I went to a an informal beef producers meeting Wednesday or Thursday night, I believe, and they're all the traditional farmers. I mean, they're old school, old school by squeezing out every bit of subsidy money they can from the government and complying with all the regulations, which is what they have to do. It's kind of a two-edged sword. They'll give you money, but you got to farm the way they want you to farm, right? And
Mhm.
hopefully changing a little bit. But they were all up in arms that some farms are actually being shut down because they've actually tainted the water supply in the local area. That so many years they've been pouring these chemicals on their fields, it's actually ruined the water table underneath them, with all the pesticides and weed killer and stuff like that. And they're like, well, the government can't do that. And I'm like, well, don't spray the garbage on your property to begin with, and you don't have to worry about that. But I wasn't going to say that because I was like the only person there that wants to do it my way, and they're all,
Yeah.
well, you got to do it this way, and you got to do it that way. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, and how do you guys make money doing this? I mean,
Yeah.
you got to get all these vaccinations and shots and paperwork and IDs, and this is before you raise your first animal, or sell your first animal. I'm going, you've got, if you're doing it in what I call traditional or industrial farming, um, you've got a couple $100 in each head of just regulations type stuff that you put into your animal. And when you're only making $400 or $500 an animal at the end of the day, that cuts into half your profit, and it's like,
Yeah.
how do you people make money doing this? I mean, I'm doing it because I want to do it this way, but I'm also doing this because this is the only way I can afford to do it.
Hmm.
You know, if I was just raising cattle out on my property and taking them to the sale barn and selling them for whatever they sell for, I'd be grabbing all the government money I could because that's the only way I could stay in business. And that's
Yep.
frankly how a lot of these people can only stay in business because they have to comply with what the government says that they need to do in order to do it their way. So it's like, here's the money, but here's the regulation book. If you're going to take one, you got to take both of them. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And so I just choose not to take the government's money and do it my own way. Um,
Hmm.
you know, I'm tempted to. There's drought money, for the past 2 years, you get, I don't know, $50 a head for your cattle for drought, if you file for drought relief, you can get money for it. And I'm like, I could, but then I'm also inviting the government into my operation, and it's like, "Oh, so we gave you money. What are you doing over there?" It's not that I'm doing anything illegal.
Hmm.
I just don't need them in my business.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
I
so
couldn't agree with you more. That's the whole reason that especially like chicken growers are pretty much slaves to the system. Because I can't remember who it was I was talking to about it, but I told him, I said, because I used to install back years ago, I would install some of the chicken house equipment in these chicken houses. I'd put in the drinkers, the feeders, the computer systems, the vents, the fans, all that stuff.
Mhm,
Cool cell systems, because here in Alabama, you got to have, a swamp cooler for those chickens or they'll die.
mhm,
Um, you got to have something.
right,
But yeah, you've got all this stuff. But what somebody will do is they'll go and they'll spend, which now I think it's about a bare minimum of uh uh $500,000 to build one now.
yeah,
It used
that's
to be it used to be a quarter million
yeah,
when I was doing them. You could do the smaller houses for a quarter million bucks.
mhm,
And you go out and you take a loan for that, of course, because not a lot of people's got a $250,000 just sitting in the bank. But you go and you get out a loan for that, and then you pay on it monthly. And once that house is, sat there for a few years, and Tyson or whoever your grower is says, hey, buddy, those fans that you put in there, those nice new fans that, are only like 4 years old, they probably got, 20 years of life left in them. Yeah, we've changed how we do our fan systems now. So guess
mhm,
what, bub? You need to get some new fans, and those people have got to go out and get another loan
mhm,
to replace those fans, or guess what? They don't get sent birds. So I
right,
mean, you have to do it the way they tell you to, and
yeah,
there's no other way.
yeah, and it's a market. It's the most perverse market. It's not capitalism. It's more like slavery. You know,
Hmm.
it's more like sharecropping because it's like, you know what, you know, we decide we'll give you the specs for the barn. We will deliver the chickens and we'll pick the chickens up and we will make you buy the proper feed and the amount of feed and the type of feed that we require you to grow our chickens.
Hmm.
You have no choice. You have no control over your costs. You have no control over how much you sell them for.
Hmm.
You're at the you're at the mercy of the Tyson or whoever the chicken provider is because they they call all the shots. And if
Hmm.
you're not making money and you can't afford to pay your mortgage, it's not their problem. There's plenty of other people they can go to. And
Yep.
you can go out of business and lose your farm. They don't care. I mean, and I don't expect them to care, but they control every aspect of your operation, and you have to abide by it. And the second you step out of the line, guess what? That truck with the new chickens don't arrive. And pretty soon you got empty houses. And
Yep.
then you got to make your. It's really one of the more perverse type of business arrangements I can possibly think of
Oh yeah.
because at least a cattle farmer, has a choice of what feed they feed them, and you can feed them grass or corn or whatever you want to feed them, and you decide when you take them to the sale barn to sell, and you can wait for a better price, but with chickens, you
Hmm.
once they get to a certain size, they got to be picked up and slaughtered like that day. It's not
Yes.
like it's gonna. Well, we'll pick them up next week, and the price of chicken goes up. It's like no,
Nope.
you got it's there.
8 weeks. Eight
Yeah,
weeks. That's it. Some of them even I think they get them at 6 weeks now. But
yeah,
you got 8 weeks. They come and pick them up, and I mean that's what you got. And it's I'll tell you this. I've had people tell me before. I can think of at least one that I can remember, and they'd say, well, they say there's no money in chicken farming, but golly, all these guys that have these chicken farms have a nice truck and a big house and everything. And it's not everybody, but there are some that do. But I'll tell you this. Now, I'm not saying they're not out there, but I don't know if I know a single person that has ever had chicken houses and that's all they did. They always had a second job. Their spouse had a job. They had some other kind of operation they were doing. The chicken houses was never the sole operation,
well, you
ever.
live off of it. No,
No. And going back to the farmers here. Greg was saying the farmers would take any of that excess grain that they couldn't sell because it would go bad and distill it into whiskey to sell or trade. He says, I guess we all need to get some stills and Doge, and Doge takes out the ATF, which would be like, I haven't been keeping up with what Doge is actually getting rid of, but like, dude, if they could just get rid of the ATF and the IRS, like that just that solves like 90% of our problems.
right,
90%
right.
of the problems just go away if you get rid of the ATF and the IRS.
Yeah, well, that they got a lot of cleanup to do with a lot of the money that's being. It's just a horror story when you hear that money's just being sent out. you know, Med- Medicare payments going to people that live overseas that have no reason to be collecting Medicare from our system, and it's like, my goodness, that because that's the largest part of the budget, man. Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Those are all. We spend more on those things than we do on the military and anything else. It swallows everything else, and so we'll see. We'll see what happens, but. I'm optimistic at this point until something else happens. But
Yeah.
for the average person, are they going to see much of a change? I mean, and I'm speaking from an agricultural standpoint. I don't know about prices going up, but I do know that people that get their livelihood from agriculture, it's gonna be a change for some not positives, because there's people fully invested in the current system, and that's, like I said, that's the only way they can make money is by you know following the rule books. And if they come in and shake that up, they might have to find a different way. They It's not that they're not going to be able to make money. It's just going to change the way they do business, and it needs to change, right? And there's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of heartburn over that, and I understand, and people are already saying, well, we might not be able to offer this product or this service because of the cuts that are coming, and it's like it's basically fear at this point, and and mark my words, follow your email, follow your email. There are going to be so many scams out there of people saying, "Oh, they cut off our funding. We need more money in order to stay."
Mm-hmm.
Don't even send. You're
Yep.
going to get your email inbox is going to be full of that shit in the next couple. Like, oh, little children are dying in the Sahara, and
Yep.
evil Americans cut off our money, and it's like
Oh yeah.
that's going to be the next scam. For the next couple months, they're just going to be filling you up.
Well, the average American, and I know, just like, for example, think of all the disasters we've had. We've got California, we had Maui, we've got North Carolina that's really close to home, and you've got all this stuff. You've got homeless veterans. You've got all of our people that are suffering. And now I'm all for helping anybody just because they're a human being. I don't care if they're from, this part of the world or that part of the world, whatever it is. But there is a responsibility of your neighbor. It's your family first, then your neighbor, then your nation, your country, and it goes out from there.
Yeah.
And it seems like we're just doing a horrible job. It's kind of like, I'm not getting my hopes up either. One of the things Greg put in here. He said that RFK's confirmation. He says, He wonders if Joel Salatin and Massey are going to be overhauling the food system. Joel Salatin getting in would be one of the best things, but I don't know how much power he would actually have to do anything. And he said right after that, though, it's still the government, and that's what everybody needs to realize. It is still the government, and they're going to do what the government does.
Right.
And you got, like, I remember when Obama got in, and there was a lot of people, because for all the fake stuff that they put out there just to divide people by race, there are some things that are really unfair to people who are black in this
Hmm.
country.
Hmm.
I think we can all admit that. And Obama was supposed to be the savior of that, and the only change that he gave anybody was the change jingling in their pocket. So, I mean, this whole, like, we're going to have, it seems like there's always a new politician that's going to be the messiah that's going to, fix everything for us.
Right.
And it never happens. It never happens.
Yeah.
We'll sometimes get some duct tape and some baling wire and some zip ties on the economy. It's still an inflationary currency. It's still going in the same direction. I mean, you took away gold, you took away silver, you took away people's alcohol, you try to restrict firearms, you take all this stuff away, and we're going to continue down this road. It's just, at what velocity are we going to continue down this road?
Right.
Because that's really the only thing you can do, is you can slow it down or you can speed it up.
Well, and I think by virtue of your channel and Greg's channel, and the social groups that we associate with, the overriding mantra is, don't expect the government to help you, and they're probably going to get in your way. So you need to prepare and arrange your life in a way where that doesn't matter. I mean, that's really the
Yep.
underlying current of our movement. It's like nobody's going to help you. The government's not going to help you out, and they might
Hmm.
get in your way, and you just need to be prepared. I mean, and if that doesn't mean, I mean, to a lot of people, they don't understand what that really means. But you have to, you have to be in charge of your own health and fitness. And because if you're relying on prescriptions and medical procedures to extend the quality of your life, because you choose to eat crap and sit on the couch, well, that's on you. That's
Hmm.
providing your own food, providing your own income, outside of the system, is another step. Can you survive the fact that Walmart might be closed and you can't get food for a period of time? All those things are very possible. And, the less you're dependent on the government, the less you're affected by what goes on, and the politics, and you can kind of back away from it. I'm very interested in it because it still affects my life, but
Hmm.
you know hopefully I'm building something and continuing moving in a direction where I'm a little bit independent. Will I ever be completely self-sufficient? No, I don't think so. Um, but I'll be much further ahead than people that rely on, the government to provide their every need, and when
Yep.
one small thing stops, it ruins their life. And you can see that, people are like, oh my God, they're getting rid of all these government employees, and it's like, well, frankly, government jobs are like the most the safest jobs out there, right? Because nobody ever gets fired from a government job. Everybody wants one. The pay isn't probably as much as you can make in the corporate world, but man, it's a gravy train. You've got to pretty much commit a federal crime multiple times before they'll fire you. You know,
Yep.
and so
Or piss off the right politician.
correct, correct. But if you're in it for very long, you realize that real quick, and you just keep your mouth
Yeah.
shut.
Yep.
And it's one of those really stable forms of employment that attract a lot of people. And unfortunately, and I hope I don't upset anybody who might be working for the government, after a while, that is all you can do is work for a government bureaucracy. The corporate world doesn't need that shit. They're trying to get rid of that. They're trying to streamline
Yeah.
it most of the time. Some do, but your skills kind of aren't needed in the real world. So you have to kind of start over again. And that really kind of
Hmm.
sucks, you know. Um, and and it's kind of funny. Our group that we we gather with on a monthly basis is in Huntsville, Alabama, and a lot of people are work for government contractors for the space program down there.
Hmm.
And Elon's going after NASA next, and I don't want all our friends to lose their jobs or be impacted by it. Could happen,
Yeah.
they were like, we don't need that weapon system, we don't need this. How come you're spending this much money on this and wasting it? And
Hmm.
oh, that's scary. That's scary.
Yeah.
Either you work for the government or you're a contractor for the government. Same deal. You're still
Hmm.
as so. It's always good to have a plan B.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, right right before we started talking about this, Greg had put in the comments, he said, shouldn't get too excited, just keep building and doing status jujitsu.
Yep.
He put 100% to what everything you were saying and Amish gang. And that's the thing. I think everybody's plan B probably needs to be Amish gang
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, um, it's, I mean, you look at government, and the thing is, it's like you said, you can never get fired. So you're extremely um, incentivized to do nothing
No
because
rock the boat.
you can't because you can't get fired. So I mean, if you just and if you do a poor job, it's like you don't even have to say whoops, sorry. You can just blame somebody else. You don't have to. You don't even have to acknowledge that you did wrong. You can just get your get out of jail free card and then just keep doing your job. Well, or not doing your job.
Right.
But I think that there's going to be a huge shift in that. I don't, I don't necessarily think we're going to cut near as much as we're hoping. And the thing is I don't think that any of that money is necessarily going to get back into our pockets
No, no, no.
because it's going to go, it's going to find its way into the hands of somebody else that's just going to get rich off of it. And as far as Elon goes, the thing that I'm most skeptical about is like I'm wanting to see if he becomes the next Bill Gates. Like I need to look and see if he's buying any farmland or anything like that. Like that's what I want to know. Anytime there's billionaires buying farmland, that's always alarming. The more
right,
farmland they own as a billionaire, that's just like that's world domination type stuff.
right.
So yeah, I really don't know what the future holds, but I can tell you this: that everyone who's into homesteading, I've got friends that are um, extremely liberal, that are somewhat liberal, that are libertarians, that are Republicans, that are Trump tards. I guess I could say, you got the Trump tard on one side, and then you got the libtard, on the other. That's just like one of them thinks that Trump is like literally Jesus Christ, and then the liberals think that he's the literal devil. It's somehow he's the most important person in the world, and I don't know how. I don't know how that happened. I don't necessarily have a hatred for the guy, and I don't have really like a oh, I love Daddy Trump either. But like at the same time, like how is this guy the most? He's funny. I'll give him that. He's funny, but other than that, like I don't get how he's so loved and hated. But all the people who are on whatever that spectrum are somebody like me who just wants no government whatsoever and just wants people to be able to live their lives. Everybody can at least agree on eating healthy food, living free, being out in the country. And that's what we really have to focus on. That's one of the reasons that I don't even bother with any of the political stuff, like on
Right.
my channel when I make my videos, because
Right.
really and truly, when you get down to it, like you said, the government will affect your life. The people who win in politics will affect your life. But at the same time, the power that you have to change that is zero as an individual. And so, doing stuff like raising cattle, having your own chickens, growing a garden, um, 3D printing, getting into solar, stuff like that. Just anything that you can do in that realm, that is going to have an impact in your life. Going and
Mm.
buying a roller for your, big hay bales is going to have an effect on your life. That is going to affect John's world far more than anything that Doge will do. That's going
Right.
to, make a huge difference. And so I
Absolutely.
think that we've got to get people shifted on the things that they've got in their circle of control, because politics will make you I remember being a teenager and thinking that education should be free, which is dumb. I mean that's just dumb. And then I was like I remember having all these different political beliefs that were on all the different ends of the spectrum, and that stuff doesn't matter. You're not going to change any of that. Yeah,
Right.
I remember when they talked about George Bush was talking about making all the illegals, pay taxes. He's like, we're just going to, fix all their paperwork, and that way they can start paying taxes, and then we're going to, crack down on immigration. It was something to that effect, and it never happened. But it's all a show. It's all a big, look over here, look over there. Just get ready for spring, get your garden beds prepped, fertilize your fields, just get on it. Because it's Nathaniel jumped in. He said he's sorry he's late. What are you missing? Thing you're missing a lot. We're talking about all kinds of stuff. We've talked from everything from hay to politics to God, everything. So yeah, but that that I think needs to be the message to people. And I've seen some homesteaders start to take some political trails on stuff. And I'm not saying that like, I'm against people talking about politics or whatever, talking
Right.
about stuff going on in the world, but really and truly it's time to really hammer down and get to work and doing stuff to make yourself more resilient. Getting up with your neighbors, getting up with people that are local. There are tons of people. I find people every day that I would have thought had no interest in homesteading or anything to do with growing your own food, and they're obsessed with it. It's
Right.
crazy how many people are interested
Right.
nowadays.
Right. And I think what's and especially after that meeting I went to the other night, which the average age was probably my age, and I'm 64 years old, and it's like they're all kind of stuck in what they've done their whole life, and they really at this point can't change. I mean, they can,
Yeah,
but the mental gymnastics that they have to do to change how they've done things their whole life is just really you're talking to the wall. And it's not that they're not smart people, and it's not that their heart isn't in the right place. It's just they can't do it. And
yeah,
so, what when you're saying, yeah, getting people interested in this, the real key is to get young people interested in it before they're their minds are polluted, about, the government and food and growing your own food. I really hope that, the young folks can, and I'd like to figure a way out to reach them, because, not every kid's going to wants to be involved in agriculture, but, there's plenty that do. And
Mhm.
and they're much more likely and to be open to different ideas because they've not been brainwashed their whole life by doing things the same way. So um, that would be awesome to see that happen, and get younger people involved. So uh,
Yeah.
we'll see what we can do in that category. But even I talk to the people at those cattle producers, and because I don't understand, Giles County is the largest cattle producing county in Tennessee. You know, this whole area is built off of agriculture. Now the University of Tennessee's got another campus here, and there's some light industrial, jobs in the area, but it's still an agriculture based county. And it's like they were talking about the ag park where they have all the shows and stuff, where you have the county fairs at. It's the ag park. It's there for agriculture. That's why they got it, right, for the county fair, which is traditionally an agricultural fair, especially in rural counties. And um and the county's like, hey, we want, somebody else to manage this. We don't want the responsibility to do it anymore. And it's like they were trying to give it to the Lions Club and the Elks and all these civil organizations, and as well as the Beef Producers Association. And I'm like, why are they not supporting this? This is an important industry in the county, and they're just like wanting to walk away from it. It's like I just somebody's missing something here, and I kind of know what it is because I listen to the people here. And it's kind of interesting because you say you talk to people you never thought in a million years they would be into homesteading or gardening or stuff like that, but they are, and they get obsessed about it. But in rural counties, especially poor rural counties like where I live, it's like they're going the other direction, right? They're getting
Mhm.
they want to get away from agriculture. They want the big city. They want all the stuff that comes with living in a big city, the better restaurants, the movie theaters or whatever it is. And it's like it's hard to get their attention and say, "Hey, we need to focus on agriculture," when they're kind of running away from it. I mean, when I moved to Pulaski, I moved in, and my next door neighbor, he goes, "Hey, hi, how are you? And where'd you move from?" I said, "I moved down from Nashville." He goes, and it just his eyes lit up, and he says, "Oh, I want to move there so bad." And I'm like, and I couldn't wait to get out of there, right? So there's those cross currents in rural areas that you have to be aware of, that some people just aren't gonna want to be supportive because they want the big city stuff, and they
Yeah.
see agriculture as holding back progress, and so there's some mindsets that need to be changed and some education done. And so it's messed up, but it's something we deal with.
Well, I will say this, that I think personally, in my opinion, I think that it's a good thing because what we're seeing is we're seeing a renaissance. So you've got
Right.
people like you that move out of Nashville and want to come to, like you said, all those guys that's been there, up in their 60s, 70s, that's done it this way forever and they can't change and stuff. You're the renaissance man. You're the guy
Right.
that's coming in and is like, hey, the system seems to be broken. There's still a lot of good things. I mean, there is a reason why farmers do certain things a certain way.
Right.
And there some of that stuff has got, thousands of years of history behind it. But there's also of a, hey, we've gone down a road where it's not so great anymore. Maybe we need to do a little bit of course correction. And I think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to come through people wanting to move out of the city and get back to their roots. Um, like Nathaniel said here, he said, ever since I worry, or ever since I worry about what I can control and stop worrying about what I can't in my life, or what I can't, my life is way better. And
Sure.
I'd say that's everybody who goes down this road. Your life gets so much better when you start just worrying about what you can control and getting back to your roots, moving out. And so I think that it is going to be absolutely necessary for these farmers and people that own all this land to go to the city. I mean, I say let them go and get their Little Caesars. I'm personally done with Little Caesars. I remember when I used to eat all the garbage all the time when we lived in town, and every time I'd eat Little Caesars, I'd get heartburn. It was every time. I used to keep, which I keep them now for a different reason, but I used to keep Tums all the time because uh I'd have heartburn. This is more for like snails and aquariums, to add calcium and everything. But used to had to have it for the Little Caesars, effect.
Right.
And I think that those people that are wanting out of that, I think the reason that they're wanting out of it is because they subconsciously know that the system's broken and
Hmm.
they don't want to be a part of it anymore. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's necessarily that they want the big city life. They just want away from what they're, I mean, heck, a, 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 a manure lagoon looks pretty good if you're on fire, I mean, if you're just in flames, jumping into a 6 foot of cow manure is not really a bad option.
Right. Right.
Not to say that the city's necessarily that bad, but I think a lot of people are wanting to get away from it because the system is um, is so broken, you
Mhm.
know, and it's going to take people moving out and people like you and a lot of the younger generation that's going to have more of an open mind going in to be able to make the changes that are necessary for us to move forward.
I agree. I agree for 100%. And, and it's going to take some time, but I like the idea. I must steal that Renaissance man, because I have to position myself when I talk to these people and communicate with them properly, and not piss them off if I want their support. So anyway, hey, I just checked. I don't have a charge cord because I'm using my phone and I'm down to about 5%. So if I bug out, that my phone just ran
Yeah. Uh,
out.
yeah. I'll know I didn't piss you off.
Yeah. But it's all good. I think, if people are taking some responsibility even in a small way, because it's you're not going to go from where you're at to where you want to be without taking some steps, and usually that's to start growing some of your own food. That's the easiest way that to really understand what's involved. I mean, I finally unfroze some tomatoes that I made into. I just ground them up and put them in frozen freezer bags and froze them so I could make tomato sauce. So that today was the first time I cracked that open and made some really good spaghetti sauce out of tomatoes I grew in my own, garden, and they weren't the prettiest things. And, I had some ups and downs with them, but they made a lot of tomato sauce. So, there's a win, I'm trying garlic this year, and it's like, cause I use a lot of garlic. So I'm like, okay. I mean, it just gives you a good feeling when you can do that, But I didn't have to go to Walmart to go buy a jar of tomato sauce. I had plenty of it in my freezer, so it's all good.
And see, I think that's one of the things when you're homesteading. You were talking about the self sufficiency stuff. People want to grow literally everything,
Mhm.
but I think we got to start looking at it in percentages, and
Sure.
then look at a percentage of what you're buying from other people, and then what you get from the store.
Right.
Like, yes or no, day before yesterday, I think we had a meal that was, it was, I think, let's see, it would have been 66%, point whatever. It was two-thirds of what we had grown. It was eggs from the ducks and the chickens. And well, actually, I think we only did chicken eggs that day, but it was chicken eggs and oyster mushrooms for breakfast.
Mhm.
Absolutely delicious. And the only thing that was added to that was some mozzarella cheese. And then there was one day we didn't do the mozzarella cheese. So it was literally all from homegrown stuff, and it does. It feels great. Anytime you eat an animal that was grown on your farm, vegetables, or homestead, or in your backyard, or off your balcony, wherever it is, there is something that is just it. It makes it better, and it not only feeds your body, but it seems like it feeds your soul a little bit too. You just
Oh yeah.
feel good because you grew that. It was something that you did. And yeah, Greg's saying the same thing we are, just to start small and keep making improvements. He says, this is fine meme. I don't know if he means fine or maybe fire. Or a fine meme. I'm wondering which part he's referring to. He'll have to clarify that. We'll have to make a meme out of it.
Yeah.
I'm meme lord from time to time, so
All right.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
my phone's about to kick off, so I'll have to sign off. And I appreciate everybody being here tonight. And come back next week. Sure.
yeah. I appreciate you being here too, John, and come join us Thursday. We're going to be doing a live. I'm going to be talking with Nevermore Farms, so it'd be great to have you. And we'll be
Sure.
doing that 6 p.m. But take it easy, man. Thanks for coming on and joining me.
All right. Later, man.
We'll see you, John. Sweet. So we'll wrap up the last 4 minutes here. Let's see. I'll just go and look over the comments here now just to finish up. Yeah, Greg, way more nutrient dense. That's something that we're not getting, is the nutrient density. And there's a whole lot to that I've noticed, that you can tell that in feeds and in soil, that there's sometimes deficiencies that we didn't know when we get some of the homegrown stuff, because a lot of times in these factories and stuff, they'll add in those stuff that are just absolutely necessary. So it gives you a really good feedback on what is going right or what's going wrong on your land when you eat the stuff that you grow. So yeah, but for the most part, yeah, way more nutrient dense. I know anytime I eat the eggs that we have, they get so many bugs and just all kinds of micronutrients that are in grass and insects and everything. The eggs are just, on a whole nother level. So what Nathaniel says here, he says, my problem is I don't eat most vegetables. So unfortunately, growing vegetables don't help me much, but I eat a lot of eggs and meat, and I want to raise more meat and eggs in the next few years. Yeah, man. I'm when I can kick the sugar, I'm more of lean towards the carnivore diet. Real heavy keto. The thing is that in most areas, unless you lived in tropical areas, we did not, for thousands of years, eat as many vegetables and definitely not grains as we do nowadays. So getting that meat and eggs is the way to go. And plus, heck, a garden can be a lot of work, especially if you're trying to grow any kind of grain, or some of your more difficult vegetables. And there's tons of animals that can turn bugs and grass into delicious food. So I'm with you. I stick more to the meat and eggs, just because there's a lot of a far better ROI on that stuff too. Dog in the fire and says, "Oh, yeah." Dog in the fire and says, "This is fine" meme. Yeah, I love that meme. I know which one you're talking about. Yep. Meat. I prefer store-bought chicken meat over local raised. I wonder, Nathaniel, is that um, the one that you get local raised? Is it the Cornish cross that they're raising, or is it more of a like heritage breed bird? I'm curious to know about that. Almost carnivore. Let's hear. Says, well, I went almost carnivore for a while now and down 65 pounds a year. Dude, that is awesome. The one time I went carnivore, I lost, I think it was 30 pounds, which I'm a fairly big guy, and I've never been more than, I'd say, 50 pounds overweight. Is like was the highest. But dude, that is awesome. Grass raised Cornish cross, huh? That's interesting. I've always heard the opposite, but that's something that is interesting to me when you look at chicken. It's not a food that was necessarily common years ago. Chicken was kind of more expensive. Beef is really, if you raise it the right way, the cheapest way to go, and it's the most delicious. The grass fed too. To me, I mean, I can taste a real difference. The meat's a lot darker. I like it that way. But dude, that is awesome. Going from 333 down to 265. That's sweet, man. Yeah, keep that up. And I think that the carnivore diet really helps. But if you can just cut out some sugar and seed oils and stuff, boy, that makes a difference. And that's my biggest thing is sugar is such an addiction. I mean, it is hard stuff. I think it should be considered almost like a drug because I've given it up time and time again, but it's one of those things you get the cravings for it. So yeah, that's awesome, man. Keep that stuff up. And guys, I think we are coming up on an hour here. Y'all be sure to join us if you can. Anybody who's seeing this after the live, to come by Thursday, 6 p.m. It's going to be one live stream of probably 2 or 3 live streams. I'm going to be working with Nevermore Farms to get some help with relief up there. And we're not, looking for big donors or anything, just anything that anybody can give to help. We're going to be getting that stuff set up and working with some local people there just to try to get the help to the people as fast as possible and to kind of cut out the middleman on a lot of these sites where, you have to pay the site or you have to pay an organization, and, a lot of stuff gets skimmed off the top. So come by and join us for that. It'll be an interesting discussion. It's not going to be like a fundraiser type thing where all we're talking about is just raising up funds and stuff. It'll be an interesting conversation, just talking about homestead and everything. So y'all join us for that. Thanks, Greg and Nathaniel, for hanging out with us tonight on the live stream. And got EMR train. So we'll miss you, Nathaniel, on Thursday. But yeah, come back and join us. Join us next Sunday. We'll probably be with I'll probably be with Greg and John next week, I'm thinking. But yeah, y'all come by and join us. Appreciate all y'all watching, and we'll see you in the next one.